He's bald, he's fat, he looks just like a prat. It's me. You got me again. It's the EPL panel show with Mac and Altanuchin tonight. But a veritable cast of chancers and swashbuckling Premier League fans from around the league. We've got Alan tonight, Alex, and Jake. Alan, how are you? Sitting there nicely on top of the league.
Yes.
For however many hours it takes us to beat.
Oh, I know. It's nice though.
That's the fun of it. Jake, how are you?
I'm doing well. Not great Spurs wise, but I'm doing well.
That's good. And Alex, we were just debating whether you had to call you a therapist after that result.
Yeah, it was a lot better before yesterday. Jeez, right.
But we're here today. We're going to say a big hello to Alan, and it's not God, it's just me, unfortunately. So no miracles for anybody. If it did be, Liverpool would have wrapped this league up 10 months ago. So here's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to just go over game weeks 30 and 31 because the games are coming thick and fast. This is the business end of the league for everybody. And of course, with television scheduling being what it is, they've messed everything up for everybody. And now everybody's going to be playing 4 games in 2 days from now till June, probably. We'll have a quick talk about where you think your club are going to finish, and then where you think other clubs are going to finish, because it is getting the separation is starting to happen. And then game week 32, we shall look towards the fixtures. But let us look at game week 30. So that was the weekend games before the midweek games, and we had some choice results there. Newcastle just barely beating West Ham. That was one of the. It seemed like a humdinger of a weekend. The one I want to really talk about, which we'll get to later for Alex, is that Sheffield United Fulham game. That was. We talk a lot about Fulham galvanizing each other with certain kinds of results against top teams, but that was certainly one to take note of. And Spurs. Luton are tough. We've talked about this. They weren't tough for Arsenal, or they were tough for Arsenal. Sorry, I'm thinking of Aston Villa there. They weren't tough for City, but Luton a tough team. They'll make you earn your points, but earn them. Spurs did, and quite rightly. And then Arsenal and City with the draw, and Liverpool just barely getting over the line against Brighton, with the definitely not future manager of Liverpool in charge there. But let's go first, because I thought it was an exciting game from the highlights at least. Alex, talk us through that Sheffield United Fulham game, because that didn't look like it was going to end well at one point for Fulham, did it?
No, and I mean, even I still think a draw isn't like necessarily ending well for Fulham. I think this is Fulham's form on the road. They won the first day at Everton, and then they won at Old Trafford, and that's it. They haven't won on the road other than those two. And we saw that yesterday as well. Fulham just on the road, it's a weird, different beast. They just don't put it together. And let's not, Sheffield United, no disrespect to Blades and their fans, but it's not like this year Sheffield United is a tough place to go play necessarily. So, really weird one. And if you've been watched Fulham at all over the past year and a half or 2 years, Muniz tries a bicycle or an overhead or some ridiculous kick at least once a match. And it's fun to see it kind of pay off every now and again. So good for him. Yeah, crap at home, crap away. It's unreal. It's inexplicable. It doesn't make any sense. So I don't know.
Well, there used to be a thing back in the day, as I show my age once again. Me and Neanderthal man, we were just sitting there in the pubs before they were invented, watching the games. But there was a team where when a manager came in and he wanted to build something, the first thing he had to fix was the home form, to make sure the home form was good, and then take care of the away form like the next season or as things go on. Do you think that maybe that's a case for Marco here for Fulham? Is he's making sure that Fulham becomes a place that teams don't want to go to first, because if you get enough wins in the home games, you're probably safe every season. And then the away games, you start to build from there.
Yeah, I think so. I think that holds more true against other mid-table clubs. Like, I wouldn't expect Fulham, I think we talked about it on this show. I wouldn't expect Fulham to go away to Wolves and walk away with all 3 points, or go away to even Bournemouth this year and walk away with all 3 points. But there are a couple clubs where you're like, okay, even away, you really should be expecting full points from it. And Sheffield United Blades and Forest are two of those clubs that you just kind of expect to take all three if you're a decent club, and so that's disappointing. I think your point holds true that shore up the home form, but then there's still some clubs away where you're like the historical team. It's very frustrating.
So let's go to the Spurs game. Spurs Luton, Jake, 2-1. At this point, I mean, the start of the season, Spurs were high flight. It was almost like a Kevin Keegan Newcastle type thing where you just watch Spurs for the entertainment, even if you didn't support them. They were just doing what Big Ange did at Celtic. He just all out attack, just keep going. And let's score some goals, and then come a little bit unstuck in the middle of the season, or just before Christmas, I think. But now at this point, it's just about results. Like the entertainment stuff is great, and you know he can do it. But at this point, you want to finish as high as you can, and if it's the scrappiest game ever, you're going to take it, aren't you?
Yeah, for sure. And I think we're actually a much better team when we concede early. So if we can just, get scored on in the first minute every game, I think we could go undefeated the rest of the season. But yeah, it's definitely about the points, especially with how Aston Villa is playing right now. They're letting us in for that fourth place spot. So I'll take a 2-1 over Luton, who I think have scored in like every game but one maybe this season. So it's not ridiculous to concede against Luton when we have 7 people in the penalty box and Kulusevski passes it back to no one in the midfield. And then, it's a one counterattacking opportunity. I can live with that, especially if we're going to go and create 3+ expected goals after that. We're going to score 2 of them.
For the Spurs fans, I mean, you had the promise of Pochettino. Like he looked like he was building something really good, and then it fell apart. And he stuck to his principles. I think maybe a bit too much. But Big Ange seems to be a little bit more pragmatic than that. Do you get a bigger sense of security with Big Ange than maybe you did with Pochettino, or maybe a lot of the other managers that you've had that had the big reputations and the big names? Because Big Ange seems to get Spurs. I mean, I remember Spurs in the 80s. I remember the Hoddle and Ardiles and Keith Birkinshaw and all those heady names. But Spurs were always known for all-out attack. You had to play push and run, as they used to call it. But Big Ange, correct me if I'm wrong, he does play that style. He does play the Spurs style. But now and again, he'll say, you know what, we're not going to do that today because we don't need to do that today.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely gets the club's DNA, and Pochettino was, from the same material, and it worked for Poch for a while, to an extent. I think possibly Postecoglou is even more stuck in his ways and will not change and is less flexible. But I think maybe his style is more conducive to, sticking with it and just going all out attack. It's not like when we had Mourinho or Conte, and their style was just to play defensively. And when we were down, they stuck with that, and we couldn't score. And, we got draws and comeback victories here and there, but I wasn't excited by it. And I didn't have faith that we were going to go and create those opportunities. So I like what he's doing. And, maybe next year we'll put it all together and not kind of get stagnant in the final third. But I don't know, it could go down the same Pochettino route, which I hope it doesn't. But he's definitely our guy, and he knows what the fans like to see. And bringing James Maddison off after 60 minutes, last 2 matches, kind of shows that he's thinking more long term, and he's not going to try to exhaust other players now. He knows what we have coming up. So maybe slightly more pragmatic is my response.
And then just before we go on to Alan about the City game and Arsenal game, I will say a conversation, just as you say, planning for the future, that I had a friend of mine. He was a Manchester United fan and an excellent coach. He was talking about Spurs. And here's my prediction for you to gladden your heart. If Big Ange, I can't say his last name, so he's just Big Ange as far as I'm concerned. If he gets 1 or 2 of the players he wants, and maybe gets one of those Asian league deals that he seems to be so good at, I think he's winning you a cup next year. I don't know what one,
All right.
but he's winning you a cup next year.
You got a smart friend. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he befriended me. That's how smart he is. And I took all of his money. So, Alan, let's go to that City Arsenal game for Liverpool fans. Probably an ideal result. Points dropped by both teams, but that could still end up being a very good point game, couldn't it?
Yeah, it was definitely a good point. I felt that we were the better team. We definitely tactically just defended a lot better, and we stopped them. We stopped the supposed best striker in the league from being anywhere near what he's supposed to be like. Arsenal did not let up in their defense, and tactically, Arteta shift players in the positions that they needed to be shifted in. Whenever the ball was on the right, all the players were moved to the right. They closed in on the center. They did not let any passes go in. Arsenal had the ability to score off some of their chances. If they had made those, it easily could have gone 2-0. But unfortunately, we didn't get that. And it would have been nice to have won, but it's also good and great to get a point as well. So I'm happy.
Let's just look at some of the other results, because we have to have our weekly whenever I'm on laugh at Manchester United. 1-0 with Brentford, who last year they were like Thomas Frank had them as the darlings, the sort of Brighton and Luton of last season, but this season, a little bit of a drop back down to earth, although they're doing okay. But for Manchester United, I mean, they really are in the disarrayest of disarrays, aren't they, Alex?
Yeah, it's not a great result for them. I think Brentford this year have fallen. I don't want to say fallen off a cliff. They're, because of the bottom of the table so bad. Brentford will likely stay up, but we talked about road matches that you expect to win as a fan, and United going to Brentford is one that you'd expect to win, especially this year. They've been bad, and Tony has been Tony, but he hasn't really slotted in the same as he did last year. So that's another tough result for Ten Hag and United.
Jake, I mean, I watched that game and it looked like Tony, if he had his head screwed on that day, could have had maybe 2 goals or 3 even. Such were United's defensive woes. For Spurs, there's always a point in a league here where a former giant drops back a bit, and then somebody has to take over. Like, the nature and the Premier League abhors a vacuum. Is there a sense that if things keep going the way they're going for Manchester United with their bad managerial decisions, Spurs could overtake them, not commercially, because nobody can apart from City, but certainly in status, that Spurs could take Manchester United's role as the perennial top 4 contender and challenging for the league eventually?
I mean, keyword is eventually, because I think it takes a lot of time to build that, reputation and kind of stature as being a bigger club. I mean, even if we finish above them the next 3 seasons, I still think people are going to say that Spurs are a small club just because of the history, be recent or even complete history. And Manchester United is just that big brand, and you can't compete with that commercially, obviously. But no, I think in terms of who's going in the right direction, who's more likely to finish above the other in the next 5 seasons, I'd put my money on Spurs, just because, United have so much talent, but just don't have the chemistry, and they haven't figured it out. And I don't think that the higher ups really have it figured out. And as much as people like to talk bad about our management, our higher ups, and Dan Levy, I think he's got it going right now with what he's doing commercially and with the managerial appointment of Postecoglou, and just the whole spirit of the club feels a lot better than what's going on in Manchester. So yeah, I think it's possible, but I don't think it's going to be anytime soon.
Alan, Arsenal had their own kind of wobble after years of competing with Manchester United, ironically, with Wenger. Before the board seemed to, I think you had some sort of change in the board level, didn't you? But basically, somebody had to go, stop what we're doing. Let's get Mikel Arteta in, because this chopping and changing and trying to stick to what Wenger did hasn't worked so far. but we have to do something, and in a quick amount of time. United have been like this since 2013, now over a decade. Is there a point where they're going to need maybe a whole, oil state to take them over and just pump a ton of money into them before they fix this? Because decision-wise, in terms of the higher-ups, they don't seem to know what the hell they're doing, do they?
They don't. And to Arsenal's point is that we were failing even with Wenger in charge. We were failing because we had bad board members. We had people on the board that didn't care about the results. They just cared about the money that's being made, as a team, as a club, and what was being brought in. And then finally, when the pocketbooks started being hit because they weren't making Champions League, and all of a sudden they weren't making even struggling to make Europa, like the money just stopped, and then people had their heads chopped off basically. Like Ivan Gazidis gone, Wenger gone, everyone that was in dealt with that Nicolas Pepe deal gone. Like as soon as they brought in Edu and Vinay and they were able to bring in their guy in Arteta, they've been good. And I think something similar needs to happen at United. All those top heads there need to go. They need to reshuffle over their board if they want to be successful in long term, because otherwise, we will have Spurs taking over their spot in the top 4 perennially, and nobody wants that except for Jake. I'm
kidding. Speaking of London rivalries, because apart from me, it's 3 supporters of London. Oh, maybe I'm a London clubs, but we all get to laugh because it's always worth laughing. Chelsea 2-2 against Burnley, the perennial whipping boys of the league this year. It's just, whatever they do, it's just not going right for Chelsea there at all. And Alex, I mean, it's a delight to see, given how they kind of probably started the whole oil money into British football and the Premier League thing. But we'll get to Jake about the Pochettino part. But for Chelsea, and as you as a Fulham fan, and I think you're either above them or very, very close to them in the league table, and it must be a delight to see.
Yeah, we're a point back. That they have, I think, at this point, like 3 games in hand, I think. So the way the schedule's worked out. So it's been fantastic. And Fulham finished above. I think Fulham finished 10th last year. Chelsea were 11th, I think, and Brentford were 9th. This was a tight little West London mini league there. It was the first time Fulham finished above them for like 50 years, something crazy. So I hope that's been, I think, the goal this season is finish above Chelsea again, and I think Brentford will finish above them. So it's been kind of fantastic to see them kind of regress back to being less than the sum of their parts, which is what they've been all year long. As we've talked about it, like there's some really good, talented players in that squad, and they just don't play well. They just don't. And it's a joy to watch. It's beautiful.
Just point of order. It's West London. You got to say it right. If you don't say it right, you'll get arrested. But Jake, as a former, as a fan of a club formerly managed by Pochettino, is he doing it wrong, or is the club doing it wrong, or is it really just wrong place, wrong time for both parties?
I mean, I think if you look at some of their better results and you watch some of the games where they tear teams apart, you wonder why they can't do it every week. But if you go back and look at Poch's first season at Tottenham, and he saw very similar streaks. They play very well, and they look like the fun, new, exciting team. And then they'll give up 4 goals to like Bournemouth or someone. So I think it's probably not clicking yet, just because it's that new manager style and some newer players. I think next season, cross your fingers for them. They figure it out. And I think they need to hold on, because the carousel is just not going to do them any good if they keep dumping managers. So if I were a Chelsea supporter, I say hold on one more season. And if you're still in the bottom half, I mean, obviously at that point it's time to move on. But I have faith in the man. I think he did better with a lot I wouldn't say a lot less skill players, but
Yeah.
similar level skill players.
Absolutely. But I'm kind of for like Pochettino and Spurs, and from Southampton as well. He's a very systems oriented manager, and it's a very specific system. And it's much the same at Klopp, and it's much the same at Arteta, and it's probably much the same at Marco Rose at Fulham as well. There's a system there, and players have to learn it. Do you think, Jake, the possible problem is that there's so many players at Chelsea that he can't even get the cohesion? Because I believe he didn't do an awful lot of rotation for you guys, did he? If there was a definite start in 13 or 14, and then everybody else. So there was a lot of familiarity about that Spurs team. Eventually, is it a case that maybe he just has too many players that he can't even start doing that yet until he offloads a few of them in June, July, August?
Yeah, definitely a possibility. Spoiled for choices may not be a good thing in this case. Yeah, it was a really close-knit squad that he had at Spurs, and rotation-wise as well. It was no more than 13 outfield players that were getting rotated in and out in the Premier League. So maybe it's just he hasn't found that solidified starting 11 and those players that really click together. But I don't know. They have the talent there, and I think when it's working, we're seeing a very destructive team going forward. But I don't know why. I could not explain the results, like 2-2 versus Burnley, when other days they can go out and play against one of the big six clubs and look like they belong.
Brian says he's the Argentinian Brendan Rodgers. And they show a lot of character. Alan, as an Arsenal fan, Arsenal, Chelsea, and United were like the three during the Wenger era. Certainly, I know you came late to Arsenal, but culturally, Chelsea Arsenal was a big thing, even in the 70s and the 80s. To be so far away from them, this close to the end of the season. If you have Chelsea fans, they must hate you right now, right?
Oh yeah, I have a friend that gives me shit every time that we lose. He's a Chelsea fan. He looks for every opportunity to dig in the knife whenever something bad happens, because he's just so low and down right now. But but no, it's sad. It's sad to see, because I like having good matchups with Chelsea, and even when we tied 2-2, I thought Chelsea was going to have a good season early in the start of this season, and that Pochettino was going to get everything going. But I think Pochettino is a great manager, and I think Jake's right. He's a systems manager, but he's really good at the systems. But he doesn't have the players that he has. Don't equate to what he wants to do there. I think if you give him time, if Chelsea does give him time, which he should get, because he's good. Like he definitely could take Chelsea, further than what he took Tottenham, because Chelsea have that history of winning. So,
okay, so let's move on to game week 31. Now, Alex, you've been as with all the lads here, an absolute joy to talk to every week that I've covered for Tamuchin here. But I have to rip the Band-Aid off. Nottingham Forest,
Jesus,
3, Fulham 1.
This is a really fun one to watch. Like, this is what makes you just love being a fan of sport and just getting up and watching your team play. This was peak. No, it was pretty awful. It was like I think the first. You could see before they scored the first goal, like the first 10 minutes, you're kind of like, did these guys get off the bus? Like, where's this team? And the City Stadium was rocking, and they're credit to them. They're behind the squad, and things look pretty dire for them, but the fan base showed up, so good for them. But it was dire. And then, 2-0 quickly. Marco triple sub in the 30th minute or so. Hauled off a few players. A couple, Harry Wilson probably didn't deserve to come off, but he got caught up in all the shuffle. So, and then Forest grabbed their third before halftime, and you're kind of like, what happened here? Inexplicable. I think it's one of the results that I don't know. I can't imagine what Marco said at halftime, down 3-0 to that Forest team. Matty Turner, American GOAT, picked up a yellow card from the bench. Love to see that. He kicked the ball away on a restart, so God bless Matt Turner. Yeah, just bad. There's no analysis there other than that was really, really terrible. Probably the worst performance of the year. The second half was better. It was decent, but bad.
As a fan and seeing that Marco's doing such a great job for Fulham, is this kind of something right now at least you accept and you say we're going to have these days because the overall picture is way more positive than we could have imagined maybe even 2 seasons ago?
I think
I lost audio.
You lost audio?
But Forrest took that from you as well. So I'll pass on to you.
Probably pretty convenient, right?
Can you hear us now?
Man.
Nope. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll go to Jake and we'll see if you can answer that. Do you think for when you're building something, as Spurs unfortunately for a long time have been trying to do, they've always had these great teams with a celebrity player. You had teams with Paul Gascoigne in it at one point, and he was England's next best thing, and nothing ever came of it. Is it a case that sometimes when you're building, you will accept some of the results and say the overall picture is positive? So let's just keep the faith.
Definitely. You can't let the results like 3-1 to Forest kind of get you down if you're overall going in the right direction. And like you mentioned earlier, finishing above Chelsea last season is going in the right direction, especially from a club that's notoriously considered a yo-yo club. So I think, you take that in the grand scheme of things. You'll take one of those losses if you're still finishing around mid-table, hopefully. So yeah, if Alex has his audio back.
Hey, convenient timed. Oh no, I can't hear you. Oh no.
We lost to who? I don't know. I don't remember. Yeah, I can't hear you.
I think Fulham is great, guys.
Yeah, who doesn't?
Now you hear that one even without the earplugs. So Alex, I want to pass that question to you because the question was basically, given what Marco Rose is building, Marco Rose, we keep calling him Marco Silva. Is building. Do you accept those kind of results are going to be part of the journey because so far the journey has been so bloody good for you?
I'd rather they not be part of the journey, I guess. But it is what it is. I think that's the frustrating thing. Peter Rutzler, who is the athletic correspondent for Fulham, wrote an article about this. Like the Fulham is a painfully inconsistent team, and I think that has reared its head so many times. You beat Arsenal, you beat United, and then you give Burnley 4 points and get dominated by Forest, and for much of the match Blades, and it sucks, and that's part of it. I still think a lot of Fulham fans this season is more exciting than last season with the cup runs and all this. So I wish it weren't part of the journey, but if it were 10 plus points clear at the bottom, I'll take it. Like Jake said, from where we were 2, 3, 4 years ago to now, I'll take it.
Let's go here for the Arsenal game today, Arsenal-Luton. Alan, we talked before we went on air. A professional job would probably be the best way to put it, but the kind of job you need to do at this stage of the season if you want to challenge for the league. And Liverpool know this so painfully well when we couldn't beat Crystal Palace in 2013, 2014, 3-3 draw because Brendan Rodgers wanted to increase his goal difference because that might be what it came down to. But at this point, you'd rather just have the 3 points, wouldn't you? And just let goal difference be what it is. Yep.
Just let it be where, let the goal difference lie where it is at the end. 3 points is 3 points, and that's what's important. This is the run in now, and we need to take every point that we can possible, especially now that we're not playing City or Liverpool, and Liverpool's not playing City again. So we need to take as much as we can and win as many games as possible throughout these last 8 games, which, to be honest, it's kind of crazy that we're finally at the last 8.
And now Jake mentioned earlier that Luton always seem to score at least 1 goal, but you guys kept a clean sheet against them. So how much are you out to Jake now for the rest of the episode?
Sorry, I didn't get that last part. You cut out. But No, I think it's great that we got a clean sheet against Luton the last time we played them. They scored 3 on us. We had to score 4 on a last minute goal by number 41. Respect to TQ. I know you don't like him. So so Luton's a tough team. So to get a clean sheet against them is great.
A London derby today, Jake. What was it today? It was yesterday. Sorry, yesterday. West Ham won, Spurs won. Obviously, for a Liverpool perspective, David Moyes was both the manager of Everton and of Manchester United. So it seems like a decent guy, and it's great that he won that European trophy. But all the same, he's still David Moyes, and he is the living embodiment of Gollum from Lord of the Rings. But should you have beaten West Ham, or is David Moyes deceptively good at setting up teams to be hard to beat?
I mean, I'm going to give him his plaudits because he always plays well against Spurs, and they always come to play, especially when it's at home for them, no matter how terrible that stadium is. But yeah, they like to play against Tottenham, and they call it their cup final because it's a big rivalry to them. It's like our 4th biggest London rivalry.
After Brentford.
So yeah.
Man,
after
Brentford.
You're laying it on, Jake.
Jesus, Jake. I don't feel bad anymore.
But yeah, congrats to West Ham. They got the equalizer off of a corner kick, and it hit the back of Zuma. It didn't even hit his head. He turned from it, and it hit his back and went in. And then they, played a low block counterattacking response to that, which, if you're going for a point, that's what you're going to do. And we couldn't unlock their, well set up defense. And it's just one of those days. And one of those things that we're going to have to learn with Postecoglou is how to break down those teams now that we're back to being in our form where, teams like West Ham and below are going to be playing lower blocks and not, coming out against us. So I was disappointed with just a point, but what are you going to do?
And does it particularly bite, given the City Villa results, that you couldn't have, put some sort of gain on them with an extra 2 points?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if I've learned anything from being a Tottenham fan for all these years, it's that if we have an opportunity to jump the team in front of us in the table, we're going to lose or we're going to draw. Because
sounds like Fulham, my guy.
That's presented to us. When that's presented to us, we're always going to waste it. So I'm not surprised, but it doesn't take the sting out of it any less.
Let's see what else happened this week. Brentford and Brighton 0-0. That was at one point. Those two managers, Thomas Frank and De Zerbi, were the hot new things for management. Alex, you currently have one of the hot new things in management. He's not that new at Fulham, doing fantastic work, but for that kind of reputation that those managers get, De Zerbi's the flavour of the month right now. Yeah. Is that just a media thing, or do these guys really do the work that gets them noticed? Is it kind of a lightning in a bottle situation? Especially given how well Brighton did before De Zerbi. It's not like he just took that team and made them fantastic. Potter did do a good job with them too. But is there a danger that these managers are getting promoted for roles beyond their ability, just based purely on what the media reaction to them is?
Yeah, I think it's interesting you say that, because I think De Zerbi is more of that mold than Frank is. I think Frank he's the 3rd longest tenured coach in the Premier League. I think it's Klopp and Pep. I don't know what order. And then I think it's Frank after that. He's been at Brentford for a while. And for whatever reason, God, who only knows, he's been loyal to Hounslow, bus stop in Hounslow FC. So I don't know. But he's being talked about a lot more. Obviously, they navigated them to the Prem. But yeah, with De Zerbi, I think it's a tough thing to judge, because so often, like you said, it's lightning in a bottle. And so often, before we can make a full judgment on a manager, they've cashed in and they're gone. Clearly not that De Zerbi, Frank. We'll find out. But yeah, that's the hard part to establish that is like, okay, De Zerbi is very likely going to get hired away this summer. And we'll say, I think he's good enough. We'll see. He did decent at Brighton. We'll find out. So it's hard to judge that. I think to your point, who knows whether it's media has something to play with it, especially for British managers. Scott Parker was one of these that the British media was always on about Scott Parker and young, exciting British manager, and he flamed out. I don't think he's coaching anymore right now. So media does have a role to play in that.
Alan, Mikel Arteta came along with that kind of reputation, coming from being Pep's assistant, etc., etc. But he also was an Arsenal. I don't want to say he was a legend, but he was one of those quiet legends when he was an Arsenal player. If he didn't play, you knew he wasn't on the field, kind of a thing. Yes. But it worked out for Arsenal. But he had a good grounding in learning how to coach. Alan mentioned Scott Parker, who is the question I'm going to ask is basically: is there a difference between the media approaches to the British managers that come in as opposed to the foreign managers? Because the British managers tend to be ex-players exclusively who played for England or the big clubs and had that reputation. England's lion-hearted Scotty Parker, or Stephen Legend Gerrard and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And there's still a bit of suspicion about the foreign coaches that go into the English league, but they are the ones that are making the difference, really, aren't they?
Yeah, they're the ones that are making the difference. They're the ones that are in my opinion, do the best. Is a lot of the foreign coaches that come in. I mean, the three best managers in the league, Klopp, Pep, and Arteta, are all foreign. They all played. I see you, Jake. They're all foreign. They all played. I don't know where Klopp played, but I know Arteta played.
Klopp played for Mainz in the lowest division in Germany, and Thomas Frank didn't play at all. Thomas Frank was an amateur player.
Yeah. So, but yeah, when all three came on, could they do it in the Prem for Klopp and Pep? And for Arteta, is like he's too young. He's never done this before, even though he's been proven to win as an assistant and is doing really well right now as a manager. But yeah, as far as the English manager is concerned, like any English manager gets like a good, like, hey, you're good, you'll do fine, good for him. But the English media likes to tarnish and go after the foreign managers.
Jake, is it a case, do you think, and let me see if I remember. You coach, Jake, yeah? No, who we thinking of? Oh, it's the Newcastle guy, isn't it?
The Newcastle.
Yeah.
What's his name?
That guy. Sully, that's who it is. Sully.
We got there.
Sorry, Sully. You really are. We really do like it. Like, I just couldn't remember your name right now because I'm really tired. But in terms of is it that on the continent in Europe they really take coaching seriously? Your background as a player doesn't come into it for a second, as opposed to anybody who's gone through the USSF licenses over here. They still push the ex-professionals. It's rampant in the FA in England. Is it that, or is it just that the players are afraid of Frank and De Zerbi because they look like they're good managers, but also they can sell you a teenth on the corner on a Monday night when you're desperate?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. There's the stigma around British managers.
Alan's just figured out we break a bad joke there.
This is a good joke.
It went right over my head, so good job.
They both look like crack dealers, Jake. That's what I was saying. If you look at them, Thomas Frank is the one that's not very good at it.
Faces.
Yeah. And De Zerbi looks like he's living fat off those profits.
Oh, I wouldn't trust De Zerbi as hard as I could throw him. But Thomas Frank is a different. He does kind of have that look, but it's the kind eyes, I think, for me, for Thomas Frank. But no, yeah, definitely a stigma with the British managers, and just I guess media does have a way, or comes into that a bit, but it's also just other managers from other countries are more accepting of change and using data-led approaches and being more flexible with their tactics. And we've seen that with the Premier League over the last 10, 15 years. So I don't know. I don't know why people are scared of De Zerbi or Thomas Frank. But I think either one of them could be up for the job. But I wish that for Liverpool's sake that Alonso didn't decide to stay at Leverkusen.
I think we're a lot of Liverpool fans are happy about that he is staying because we don't know whether he's going to be, like if Bayern Munich get their stuff together next year and he finishes 5th or 6th, then that would say a lot. But we're probably going to end up with Sam Allardyce. So he's due a new big job at some point. So before we go on to the fixtures for next weekend, here's the question I want to ask. Brian says that De Zerbi is going to Barcelona, probably on his vacation. Let's see what happens with that. The question I want to ask, while Alex is off watching his box set of Breaking Bad, so we can get that joke I made about 5 minutes earlier. Where do you think teams are going to finish? Number one, your own team. Where's the final position going to be? And then number two, the order of the top 4, top 5, and the order of the bottom 3. We'll go with Alan first.
Okay. Arsenal are going to finish top of the league. The order of the top 4. The order of the top 4 is going to be Arsenal, Liverpool, City. Villa's going to crack. It's going to be Tottenham in the 4th spot. I know.
Do we have to do a welfare check on Alan there?
You're recording this, right?
Yeah, that's it. This is there for forever posterity. What about the bottom 3, Alan? Who do you think is going to go down?
Let's see here. From the bottom up, Sheffield and Burnley. And Everton.
If we take points deductions into account, do you think that's going to change the picture?
I think so, because I think Everton's. I saw something earlier this week that Everton might be getting another deduction. So, I think it's going to be Sheffield, Burnley, and Everton.
And from your lips to God's ears, that's the way I say. We've been trying to push that toward for decades. Jake, your top 5 in order. What do you think? How do you think it's going to pan out? After you've recovered from the shock of Alan putting you in 4th place.
I know. Did not see that one coming. I was ready for some sort of dig, but I appreciate it. Does not mean that I'm going to give you and your club the same respect. I'm going to go Liverpool, City, Arsenal, Spurs, Villa.
What about the bottom 3 with the possible deductions in mind?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big factor, especially because Forest are still appealing theirs, and when Everton appealed theirs, they got 4 points off of the original deduction. So I think Forest are safe. Oh, I want to say Luton stay up because I like the way they play more than I like watching Everton play.
Even Everton don't like watching Everton play. Do you not hear the boos at half time and full time?
But I don't know. I feel like they've been escape artists, too often and just know how to get it done. So I think it's going to be the same 3 that came up this season go back down.
I mean, that would be unfortunate, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Especially as we all had Luton in the first 6 weeks to be the favourites, and they've battled so hard to get themselves into a position where it's sort of in their own hands. But if we all collectively put our Uri Geller psychic heads on, we could wheel Everton down. We could get that team into League One. Forget the Championship. They're gonna get City's 115 point deduction as well. They'll be in League One the year after next. But Alan, let me ask you about that. See, City are rivaling us, both of our teams, for that top spot. How galling is it to see Forest and Everton get points deducted and potential points deducted, and City get literally nothing, not even a slap on the wrist for all of their atrocities?
To quote famous Arsenal legend manager Mikel Arteta, it is una desgracia. It's a disgrace that City get to keep on going the way that they are and have all these charges against them and nothing ever happens. Meanwhile, and as much love as there is for Everton on this show, Everton, they struggle with their money, and that's why they get punished. And same with Nottingham. These are two clubs that, if they go down, they're going to struggle financially, just like a lot of the clubs in the lower three divisions in the football league pyramid are struggling. So a lot of these teams don't make profits. A lot of these teams lose money on the way out, on the way down, especially the teams in the bottom in League Two. So this is why you keep seeing teams like Bury and like just immediately just go into relegation, into what's the word for bankruptcy over there? Well,
receivership,
administration. Yeah, you see teams go into administration and immediately just disappear, and you never get to see from them again. So,
Jake, I'm not one for conspiracy theories in general, with the exception of there was definitely a conspiracy to take the awesomeness of Airwolf from the 1980s, the fantastic helicopter show, off the air, because it was just too much awesomeness for one television program. But is there scope for us to all put our tinfoil hats on and say there is something going on that's preventing Manchester City from being deducted so many points that they become almost irrelevant for a season?
I think, conspiracy theories, sometimes are like unbelievable. So I don't think that it's right to call this a conspiracy theory, because it's very believable that, Manchester City are probably doing some shady stuff to keep themselves out of trouble after doing shady stuff to get themselves in trouble. But no, I would be happy to see a Premier League season without Manchester City if they do, get the full force of the law thrown at them. But I mean, we all live in the same world and are realists, and that's not going to happen because money is everything, and Manchester City have a bunch of it. So.
Brian says Everton will have the best stadium in League One. They don't even have the best stadium in Goodison Park. The training ground is better. Well, let's look at the fixtures. I'm pretty sure Alex is going to go watch the entire 5 seasons of Breaking Bad. I'm season 3. I'll be up to the season that has that music video at the beginning, with the 3 guitar players. But let's look at the fixtures for this coming weekend. Of course, there's 2 fixtures to go. There's Chelsea. Can't remember who Chelsea are playing tomorrow, but they're playing tomorrow, and then there's Liverpool, Sheffield United. That's it, Chelsea United. So we get a double laugh if there's a show next week. But we all get to laugh anyway, one way or the other.
It's the mid derby.
It's from London. So here's what we're going to look at for us, Alan. Crystal Palace against City. Crystal Palace with a new manager. I haven't seen anything about them yet that screams identity, like at least with Hodgson, because he seemed to have the hoodoo over Man City a lot of the times, getting draws and stuff like that. But there was an identity to them. It was dull and it was boring and unadventurous, but there was an identity. I don't see it there. How do you feel that game is going to go? Do you think City are going to get the points, or is it going to be, one of those things where you're running around in your underpants for the rest of the day because Crystal Palace managed a 0-0 draw?
That'd be great. That'd be great if City drop points to Palace, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think easily City take this, probably 4-0, 3-0 maybe.
Jake, Villa, Brentford. Are Brentford capable of doing you guys a favour, or will Villa be too strong at home?
I think they have the potential. I mean, they didn't look great today against Brighton, and I think they only had 5 shots all game, which is not great for a home fixture. But Villa have shown enough cracks where I could see them getting a point here.
Let's jump down a little bit more, because I want to. We don't have Alex and Sully now. We could have totally wound the boat up.
That would have been
Newcastle.
Great.
But as we said, Alex is off watching his Breaking Bad box set. But Alan, how do you think that one will go? Fulham, Newcastle. Is that we've talked about Eddie Howe before? Is this one where we see the work that Marco Silva is doing for Fulham more than we'll see the work that Eddie Howe is doing for Newcastle?
Yeah, I think we'll see more Fulham and Marco Silva here. I think Newcastle's going to struggle in this matchup. Fulham's looking for a bounce back. They're at home. Newcastle has to travel all the way down to London from up there. I think Newcastle, or I think Fulham's going to win this. I think it's going to be close, but I think it's going to be 2-1.
So let's jump down a little bit more for you, Jake. Spurs Forest at home. You should be confident, right? But
no, I am confident. I'm confident. It feels like one of those teams that even if Forest were to score early, I have confidence that they're gonna leak 1 or 2 against us. So I feel pretty good about this one at home. You know, we did it away at Forest, so I feel just as confident that we'll be able to get all 3 points at home. There are some of those lower teams that do kind of strike fear in me. Like, I wouldn't want to play Bournemouth right now. Like, that team looks very dangerous. And even like, I'm not going to say Burnley, but because, you know, we beat them pretty handedly. But, you know, there are other teams lower in the table that I wouldn't want to play. Forest right now, I think we're at a good spot. I think that's 3 points.
Alan, Arsenal, Brighton away. You obviously, we all want to be confident in our teams when we're talking about our own teams playing games, but Brighton can be dangerous at home, can't they? This is not as cut and dry as it might look on paper.
Yeah, no, it's not. Brighton have historically given us trouble when we go play them at their stadium at the Amex. But I think Arsenal should be fine. Wait, is it the Amex where they play? Where do they play? It's not. Is it the Amex? Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. I was thinking something. I don't know. Well, Arsenal struggle sometimes when they play Brighton. But I think their record away from home has been great this season, especially in the second half of the season. So I see us getting the 3 points. I see us getting another clean sheet, either 2-0 or 3-0.
The United-Liverpool game, we will talk in depth in the Thursday night podcast, obviously, for obvious reasons. But just for both Jake and Alan, how do you see that one going? I know Alan's probably going to want the United win. He's going to want the United win. But realistically, how do you see it going?
I want the United win as much as I hate to say those words. This is a league title I'm talking about.
I always knew you were wrong on Alan. I always knew you were wrong.
Nah, I think Liverpool's going to squeak out. I think United's looking to prove something, especially with, they're probably going to draw against Chelsea at Chelsea. They drew against Brentford. I think they're going to want to prove something, but I think they're still going to end up losing. And I think Liverpool's going to walk out with a winner like late, and it's going to be like 2-1.
Jake, how do you see that one going?
I don't know. Johnny Evans, Harry Maguire, it's a pretty stellar defense right there. No, I think the
Harlem Globetrotters of soccer. And by that I mean literally 2 of the Harlem Globetrotters playing soccer.
I think it's not close. I think Alan gives them too much credit. I think Liverpool are going to walk all over them.
Yeah, we all thought that in the FA Cup game, and then the nil.
Well, it's a little revenge.
No, that's true. Yeah. That's the kind of revenge I like. Now, the last one we're going to talk about before we go is Sheffield United and Chelsea. Chelsea are away. For the two Londoners, how great would it be if Sheffield United squeaked that 2-1 with a last-minute goal?
That'd be amazing.
Yeah,
that'd be amazing. I'm all for it too. You know what? This springs on Sheffield's Great Escape.
They'll probably they'll have more fans in London than they'll ever have.
Yeah,
weekend possibly they've ever had. So that is that for the Premier League panel show. I really hope Alex enjoys that box set, and just, Alex, if you're watching here now, if you're keeping one eye on the show as it's still going, watch out for that Todd fella. He's a wrong one. He's a bad one. He is. But we want to thank everybody for joining us, Alan, Jake, and then our missing compadre Alex as well. Thank you for joining us. For everybody else, make sure you are following us on the socials, as the kids call it, on the YouTube and the Facebook and the Instagram and whatever Twitter or X is calling itself this month. And then we have our Discord channel and our Patreon as well. A lot of stuff for our Patreon members there that it doesn't get released into the public yet, mostly because it'll put us all in prison. And we don't want that because we're paying for the stream nerd. But we want to. I don't want to say good luck to Alan this week because I really hope you lose 10-0 in every game for the rest of the season. Next year we'll see how it works. Because we'll have Sam Allardyce. So anything that
Maka, I also don't wish you good luck at all. I hope United wins.
And Jake, good luck for. We're playing you guys at the end of the season, so pick up all the points you can up till that point. To your belly's full of it.
Is that at the end of the season?
Yeah, that second last to last game. I think it's the second last game.
Third to last. I think.
Third to last game. Yeah, something like that. It's got to be an interesting one.
No.
Who knows how that will go at that point? A couple of Liverpool might be out of the running at that point. We just secured top 4 for next season, and then it'll just be a fun game. I think one way or the other.
I'll gladly roll over for you on that game if it means you beating Arsenal.
No better man, Jake. No better man. That just sums up the absolute the despising we have for our. No, I'm only kidding. So press that like button, as Alan says. Like and subscribe to all of our channels, and then catch up with us on tomorrow night. There's a pre-match for the Liverpool United game. Or Liverpool Sheffield United game, and then there's post-match will be the Thursday broadcast. The 3 bald, handsome, technologically inferior dudes with me and Brian and Trevor. So we'll see everybody. Have a great weekend. Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you very much, Jake. And thank you very much, Alex. Walter was Heisenberg all along, in case you didn't know. And we will say peace out. Let's get to that funky trap music. Here you go.